They entered university as best friends. 3 girls, 1 room, 1 dream. But everything changed the moment one of them became successful. What started as friendship slowly turned into jealousy. Because sometimes the people who clap for you first are the same people who secretly hate seeing you win.
People say university changes people, but nobody tells you the hardest part. Sometimes the people you call friends begin to change first. Ada stood quietly near the hostel staircase. She held one old traveling bag tightly. Her clothes were simple. Her phone screen was cracked. This was the opportunity her family had prayed for. Back home, her mother sold food by the roadside. Her father worked long hours just to support the family. Money was never enough. Getting into university felt like a miracle. Ada looked around nervously. Everything felt new. Everything felt unfamiliar. Suddenly, "Excuse me, are you in this hostel too?" Ada turned. A cheerful girl stood beside her, smiling brightly. "I'm Mimi," she said. Before Ada could respond, another girl joined them. "Please tell me you both are freshers too," the girl laughed. "I've been lost for almost 30 minutes. The 3 girls laughed. That was how they met. Ada, Mimi, and Tokay. Nobody knew that moment would change their lives forever. The girls quickly became close. They attended lectures together, they ate together, they walked across campus together. Whenever one person was missing, people asked, "Where are the other 2?" Students began recognizing them everywhere. Mimi was the loud and funny one. She could make anybody laugh. Tokay loved fashion and social media. She always looked confident. She believed university life should be enjoyed. Ada was different. Quiet, calm, serious. But she listened more than she spoke. At night, the girls stayed awake talking about their dreams. Mimi wanted to become famous someday. Tokay dreamed of living a luxurious life. She constantly talked about traveling abroad. Ada stayed quiet for a while, then softly said, "I just want to help my family." The room suddenly became silent, because for Ada, that dream meant everything. University life was not easy. Sometimes there was no electricity, sometimes there was no water. The girls struggled constantly. They shared food, shared soap, shared almost everything. There were days they laughed so hard their stomachs hurt, and there were days they sat quietly, worrying about money. One evening, Ada received a phone call from home. She stepped outside the room to answer. Inside the hostel room, Mimi and Tokay could hear her voice. "Mommy, I understand. No, don't worry about me. I'll manage." When Ada returned inside, her eyes looked watery. "What happened?" Mimi asked. Ada forced a smile. "Nothing." But later that night, Tokay noticed something. Ada skipped dinner. Again. The next morning, Mimi quietly bought food for her. The girls truly cared about each other then. At least, in the beginning. As weeks passed, their personalities became clearer. While many students spent evenings outside, Ada remained focused on her studies. She spent long hours reading, making notes, practicing past questions. Sometimes Mimi joked, "Ada, are you trying to become the vice chancellor?" The girls laughed. Even Ada laughed too. But deep down, she knew she had no choice. Failure was too expensive for her. Meanwhile, Tokay began making new friends around campus, mostly wealthy students. Students who wore expensive clothes, students who constantly posted luxury lifestyles online. Sometimes Tokay returned to the hostel excited. "You girls need to enjoy life more," she would say. But Ada usually smiled quietly and continued reading. Not because she was proud, but because she was afraid. Afraid of disappointing everyone depending on her. One afternoon after lectures, the girls sat outside, discussing test scores. Mimi passed comfortably. Tokay barely passed, but Ada scored the highest. Of course Ada came first, Toke laughed. Nothing surprises me anymore. Everybody laughed, but Ada noticed something strange. The smile on Toke's face didn't feel genuine. It lasted only a second, then disappeared. Later that evening, while Ada studied inside the room, she overheard Mimi and Toke talking quietly outside. "She's too serious sometimes," Mimi said. Toke sighed. "She makes everybody else look lazy." The words hurt Ada, but she ignored them because they were friends. At least, she thought they were. One rainy evening, the girls sat together during a power outage. The room was dark, except for one rechargeable lamp. Rain hit the hostel windows heavily. They talked for hours about life, about fear, about the future. Then Mimi suddenly said, "No matter what happens after school, we'll always remain friends." Toke smiled. Obviously, Ada looked at both of them and smiled too. For the first time in a long time, she felt safe. She felt like she finally belonged somewhere. The girls joined hands jokingly. "Forever friends," Mimi said. "Forever." They all repeated, but life had other plans.